Are you a Disney mega fan or one of the millions who visit Walt Disney World in Orlando every chance you get? We want to know what you think about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' carefully engineered plan, characterized by many as a vengeful response to Disney's refusal to support his Don't Say Gay law, to take control of Disney World out of the hands of the company and put it into the hands of his own hand-picked supporters, led by DeSantis himself. Do you think politicians and government will do a better job at maintaining Disney World's roads and running its utilities than the well-oiled entertainment park has done for itself since its opening 52 years ago? Or do you think those politicians are out of their depth and their actions will affect your future guest experiences at Disney World? I'm Cynthia Rickard, co-host of the Scribbler podcast, who will be discussing the issue with host Bertram de Souza and podcast producer Billy Carrier.
Both of you are mega Disney World fans, have visited so many times that if you look at all of this Disney stuff behind us, it's not for your kids, it's for you. This is your stuff.
As I was gathering it, I was thinking, oh my God, how much money have I spent there?
And there are also 2 more bags of your stuff that you didn't even empty. They're like there.
You said bring it, so I thought,
plus,
you guys can pick.
This is Billy's.
Yeah.
And so I guess the reason we are here today is, in the interest of full disclosure, I have never been to Disney World. So all that
lack of trying.
My information comes from media coverage, from stories, from the coverage. But for me, the fascinating thing is the takeover of Disney's governance by the state of Florida. I have covered government for a long, long time, for almost 50 years as a journalist. And the thing that puzzles me is, why would a privately operated, fantasy park, amusement park, that is
entertainment park,
worldwide, be sort of now in the hands of government, which is inefficient just by definition. And so, Billy and Cindy, both of you who have been to Disney World many times, weigh in on this change and tell the viewers what you expect and what's going on.
Well, I first since Billy's been there most recently, I'd like to hear what you found there, if anybody was commenting on what's going on, or what the mood was among, especially since you had some experience working there, what the mood was among workers, and if you heard anything as you were walking around.
I was listening. I was very curious to see if that would come up in conversations. People standing in line. People, everybody likes to. People who are Disney fans, people who are at Disney World, love talking about Disney.
Yes.
And it never came up. It's come up a few times in some the Facebook pages I follow and stuff like that. But most people feel like until it starts actually affecting them, it's not going to be an issue as a Disney fan or a park goer. I don't know though. Like we had talked about before, I think the people who are probably really concerned or really interested in what's going on is people who live there and try to figure out how this is going to affect them. Yeah. They're DeSantis is promising this is not going to affect their taxes, but at the same time, there's a lot of debt there. That's.
But as far as just for an overview of Disney World, okay, when visitors go there, you sort of are like in a different world altogether. You sort of leave the real world, and here you are in a community where you sort of leave all your troubles behind and all of that stuff. But from what I've been able to see from they've had some specials and some documentaries and all, it's very clean, very efficiently run. People are happy. You have very few complaints from when you're there. Yeah, the people will always complain about stuff, about long lines and long waits and all of that.
Yeah.
But is that a true impression of Disney World? Is that what what you've each experienced when you've been there? And
Well,
is that the reason you'll go back so often?
yeah, I just saw something on some show yesterday. They were talking about a guy, excuse me, I think he went to Disneyland, but he got laid off. And so in order to raise his own spirits, he went to Disneyland. And he loved it so much that he bought a season pass. And he went every day. He logged over 3,000 days,
I heard about that, yeah.
consecutive days, which they said is going to be impossible to surpass because they no longer offer season passes. But it is that. I mean, we had a friend whose sister was a physician in Florida, and she used to go there, excuse me, after work every day when she needed to lift her spirits. And that is really what it does, particularly, I think Magic Kingdom especially, going down Main Street. It does kind of whisk you into, the wide world of color, that we all grew up on.
It's my happy place.
Yeah, and it is. But I have to say, having been there last year in still kind of, we were still not completely out of the mask wearing part of COVID. I noticed a change. I noticed a change among the employees who weren't, because you never ran into anybody who had anything ill to say or was rude. They were all very helpful. Whenever you run into somebody or you're lost, they sort of like are proactive. They don't even wait for people to ask, are you lost? Do you need help getting somewhere? Where are you looking to go? And they talk to you. There's a lot of retirees that work there. But this last time, we ran into some pretty rude employees, and we were there last March or April in 2022, and the lines were not that long, and a couple of them there was, like on California, Soarin'.
It's Soarin', yeah.
Yeah, on Soarin'. But they've changed some things, so that I don't know how you found it, but they've started this app thing so that you have less interaction with each other and with workers, because they've got, like, as you're waiting in line, they've got games that kids can play on their phones and that you can play on your phone. So I kind of found that there was, I don't know, sort of a disconnect there last year when I was there. I don't know how you found it.
You recently went,
yeah,
and you took your kids, your wife and kids. What was the experience? Did you sort of?
It was better this time than I went about the same time last year too, and there's still the mask mandates and stuff like that, and there were a lot of more than once I saw somebody giving a cast member a hard time because they didn't want to wear the mask. Mm-hmm. And they're just doing their job, so I kind of felt bad for them. This time, there was 2 instances. I did run into some great representatives of what you're supposed to be when you work for Disney. I used to work for Disney in the college intern program. So I'm always almost extra offended when somebody doesn't, act Disney, But they were both at Epcot. It was the one night, I'm a DVC member. Yeah. For people who know, it's like a sort of like a timeshare with Disney, and they do special parties every year, and that's why we went when we went, because they were having a special party. Mm-hmm. And there was a security guard, which it's important to check everybody's bags and do all, but he was just being very rude with people, and there was an elderly person in a wheelchair, and he's like, you have to get up and walk through, and they were trying to explain he couldn't, and he was kind of arguing with him, and he's so I thought that was odd, just this one guy. And there was a supervisor there who didn't reprimand him at all or try to pull him away, just like, hey, try to be nice to the guests. Nobody was giving him any attitude. And then the second time, now you have to do the reservation. So now you have to say that you want to go to this park, and so even if you pay for the ticket now, you get a reservation, you can pay extra for a park hopper, so that after 2 p.m., you can then go whatever park you want. Yeah, not till after 2 p.m. And some of the parks close at 8 or 9. Yeah. So you don't have a whole lot of hours left to park hop. Which, an added thing, too, that we noticed is, like, it pretty much just means everybody dumps into the Magic Kingdom, which always stays open the latest. Yeah. And it creates even more of a mess. Yeah. They're trying to avoid one thing, but they're creating a bigger mess. But But the thing that got me was, so it was halfway through. My youngest, who's just about to, just wasn't feeling good that morning. So I told my wife, we had reservations to Animal Kingdom, and I was like, well, you just go ahead with my older son, and I'll stay back with Huck, our youngest. And then he started feeling better. He got up. I started playing with him and everything. And then it was getting close to 2. And she's like, well, we want to go to Epcot. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll meet you there. Well, so I show up, and they said I couldn't come in. And I'm like, then at this time it was like 3:30. And I was like, well, and they're like, what, did you get a reservation? I was like, well, yeah, but I paid for the park hopper and it's after 2. And I'm like, well, you have to go to the first place first. And I'm like, can I talk to a manager? The manager came over and she was like, well, and she pulls out her iPad. She's like, I'll change it, but I don't have to. And I'm just like,
She said that to you?
yeah.
Wow.
She's like, just so you know,
Wow.
you're supposed to go to the first park first. And I was like, okay. It just I usually I'm not.
And
I don't.
The park hopper is like, my niece and I added park hopper to ours for 3 days, and it added $79 to the already exorbitant cost that the tickets have gone to. So for them to say, you pay for the park hopper on top of your regular ticket, and for them to say, oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I don't have to do this.
Yeah, it just didn't seem necessary. I wasn't given any attitude at the time. I was just like, I even said I was sorry. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. I figured after 2 it didn't matter. The way it used to be with park hours. I'm like, no, that's not the way it works. And she was just like very annoyed.
You would never see that previously.
No.
Yeah,
at
but
Disney.
even so, with these negative experiences, and I'm sure, if you talk to every person who's been there, they would have some complaint.
Not really.
Does it mean that,
really.
or did it reach a stage where you felt, there needs to be a new way of governing this amusement park, that the current system isn't working? We need a change of governance, which is what Governor Ron DeSantis, the Republican governor of Florida, and the Republican legislature has done, which is to say, we're going to come in and we're going to govern the Disney World from a park fan position.
Yeah.
Did you reach a stage where you said, this is not working out the way they're governing things now? We need to have the Florida state government come in and take over.
And if you don't mind me
Go
saying,
ahead.
I feel like people don't really, who've never been there, they don't understand what they're talking about. And it sounds like but I've heard people try to compare it to Universal and say, well, it's not
Right.
fair. SeaWorld, Disneyland, other parks. Disney World's not like that at all. You walk into Universal, you go past their gates, you're in their property. Everything is part of the park. You're in City Walk, and you can go to Islands of Adventure. You can go to Universal Studios, the traditional, Disneyland's like that. You walk in, you get on their property, you go through security. You can go this way to California Adventure. You go this way, and it's Disneyland. It's all connected. Disney World's not like that. Disney World is a huge property with these parks spread all over, water parks. There's actually neighborhoods in there. There's there's a district just for commerce, and
Right.
and there's bus systems. There's there's all kind of transportation. There's infrastructure, power, water. So it is really it's a city. It's
Right.
not like those guys.
Yeah.
So where they needed this was, hey, if a road that connecting Epcot to the Magic Kingdom has a problem, we don't have time to wait for it to go through all this stuff for government. We need to make that work, or else
Right.
we can't get people to the other park. So that's why they needed something like this, so they could get on things faster.
Yeah,
And now they
So
don't.
so the way it has been governed has worked.
I think so.
And so, from your vantage point, from each of you, do you see any reason why state government would be needed to get involved in the governance of this stuff?
Revenge.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what
This is anti. That's why it's like I'm in La La Land. Back when I worked there, it was mostly Democrats who were a little bit concerned about a business having all of this power, and there's something to look at. Now you have Republicans who used to always be like big business. Government needs to stay out of the way, and
Right.
now they're the ones. But it's only because of political gain. It's only
Right.
to make him look good. It's only because he's upset, and because that voter base now sees Disney as enemy number one. It's all
a woke. They call it woke. They've sort of stolen that term from the black community and really have no idea what the history of that is. But I don't see any reason the government should get involved in this, because if you go down there, I mean, what we were talking about is sort of minor employee complaints. But I mean, prior to COVID, I didn't have any complaints, and I've been there many times, and so has he. I mean, you just it's run so well, and they train their employees so well towards service that there aren't any complaints. And if you go, once you hit Disney World property, that's, what is it, 27,000 acres or something? Yeah, 27,000 acres. Once you hit that property, it's beautiful. It's beautifully landscaped. The roads are well taken care of. Everything works. I never stayed at a hotel on the property where we had a problem getting hot water or any kind of help with anything. So there is no reason for state government to get involved.
And so here's the kicker, because the legislation that was signed into law by the governor and pushed by him and the Republican legislature says there was a creation of a new board, a governing board, that will be appointed by the governor, and he's already talked about who he's going to be on, including a minister. And the legislation says you cannot work for Disney and serve on the board, which seems counterintuitive, because if you work for Disney, you know about Disney World more than anybody else. But the new board will have broad control over the district, including having exclusive jurisdiction and control over infrastructure services, control over what gets constructed or demolished in the district, building regulations, hiring people who work for the district, imposing taxes, and entering into deals with private contractors. I mean, it almost seems that
it's insane.
So you've seen, both of you have been on site. You've seen what goes on there. You've seen the infrastructure. You've seen they've got their own water system. They've got their own sewer system. I mean, will this work?
I don't think, because again, people are saying, oh, they're not being asked to do anything different than Universal's asked to do in Orlando. People just don't understand. It takes a year. They have like a year before they make any kind of change in Universal. They have to go before the government. They have, when they're doing it in Universal, they're trying to move this ice cream stand from over there to over here or make it bigger. When Disney's doing it, they're talking about the roads that get you to these different parks that they own. Disney World would not have been built the way it is if they thought they were going to have to deal with the same kind of regulation, because they kind of spread it out to take advantage of all the property, but also to kind of to alleviate some of the traffic too. It actually helps the city. You don't have all these people going straight to one place. There's Epcot's over here, Hollywood Studios right by that, but then you have Animal Kingdom over here. That's done for the purpose of making sure that people they don't have major traffic jams coming off of that already terrible interstate.
And their bus system runs so smoothly. I mean, you've never seen anything like it.
It's not like any municipal bus system.
Oh, God, no. And if they're going to get involved in that, because they're going to get involved in the hiring, oh my God. I mean, it boggles my mind when I think about who gets hired into government and all the nepotism that takes place. If they're going to be controlling the hiring of these people, when, I mean, I don't know, you went through the hiring process, so you would know what they're asking. But they're looking for service-oriented people, and then they put you in training so it's service-oriented. Government is so far away from that I can't see it working.
And Disney did their just so you know, like the way they interview people, everything they do is different. They had a group of people.
Did you work as an intern, or did you work as
I was a paid intern.
A paid intern.
They have what they call the college internship program.
Okay.
And it started off as mainly an internship program, but it became a big piece of their workforce. So I think at any given time in their heyday, we're looking at like 40% of the people you encounter are actually college students. And they encourage you to start as a freshman, go back as a sophomore, junior, and senior, and you take business classes. You get paid. They set you up with room and board. And all that, but you're a paid employee who's also getting credits. So so we don't get paid as much as the Disney employees, but we're also have a place to stay and we're getting college credits. Okay. But when they did the interview process, it was just bunch of people waiting, you know, and they were bringing in 2 at a time to do the interview. And they explained that later, that they just wanted to see how you work with people, how you interact with people, and I was very nervous because I always loved Disney. I went as a kid and everything, and there was just a moment in the interview where I just was like, something snapped. I'm like, you know what? I don't think it's going so good, so whatever. And so I just started like just having fun.
Yeah.
And evidently they, you know, that's where the guy was like, oh, this guy's kind of fun, and I you know, but I think that's what they're trying to everything. And then once you start. There's 2 days, sometimes 3, before you even show up in the park. Like you go through. I remember it was Eisner at the time was the CEO, and the first thing they do is show you a video, and he talks about how important the badge is, and when they put the badge on, what it means, your name tag, and it's very and just. They walk you through every scenario you can run into. Somebody might be rude, but this might be their most important day, and there's just something happened, and this could be the moment that you can change their experience. And it's a very.
Can you imagine that kind of training going on?
Exactly.
In any government office. And the other thing is, at Epcot's divided into 2 parts, and the back part is World Showcase, where they have all these countries, right? The people who work in these countries are kids from those countries. Mm-hmm. So that means that this district is going to be hiring international students. I mean, the whole thing.
Okay. Forbes magazine covering this, this is the lead to their piece, and I think this will, generate a discussion with you guys because you'll have been there. It says here, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican, signed legislation Monday that overhauls a special district that oversees Walt Disney World by giving the governor power to appoint its board, saying he was getting rid of Disney's, quote, corporate kingdom following a long-running battle between DeSantis and Disney after the media giant criticized Florida's parental rights in education law, known as the, quote, Don't Say Gay bill. So explain. You talked, Billy, about Disney's culture and Disney's attitude towards gays and employment. Talk about that and talk about how does this even relate to what's going on as far as the governance of the park? Go ahead.
When I worked there are a lot of employees who are gay, and I never really understood the culture. And when I worked there, I got to know some people, and I didn't realize that the reason for that is Disney was one of the first companies, back before it was popular to do so, recognize same-sex marriage. So if you you could have insurance for your spouse, even I think like early '90s, maybe even in late '80s. I believe they're the first Fortune 500 company to do it. So there's like a real history of them being on the right side of that issue, going way back. They took a real risk doing that because in the time they did it, people were very openly. I mean, when did Ellen come out?
I don't remember what year, but
it was well before that. I remember when Ellen came out and they put her. I remember when they put her in the ride, the interview. There was a lot of controversy about but Ellen's gay. Like that's supposed to mean that she can't be part of this ride. So I mean, years before that, even they've always kind of been on the right side of that, and now.
Yeah. So the whole idea of this just taking place now, that Disney is suddenly, engaging in recognizing the gay culture, it's just ludicrous because it took place many, many years ago and several CEOs ago. So somebody said to me recently, now that Iger's back in, maybe they'll get back to being concerned about entertainment instead of these political issues, but. Every CEO from as far as that supported that, and it's kind of stands to reason when you think about it. I mean, when I took a friend there, I go to Disney with whoever will go with me, and I took a friend there once who I didn't think was going to be into this at all, and the first thing he said was, that there's just a plethora of entertainment there. There's nothing that is lacking there. You can go in there and you get all kinds of entertainment. So the whole, there's shows and there's parades and dances and all kinds of stuff, restaurants that have folks who work in the entertainment industry, which traditionally has been known to have a fairly good-sized population of gays.
Yes.
So I don't know, this whole
and now,
issue
like you had pointed out, the reason why we were talking about before, and that even came up in our conversation, was that one of the people he's appointing to the board is
the person who was behind this "Don't Say Gay" law.
Yeah.
And so it's obvious what this was all about. I mean, this is he's running for president, and he wants to establish himself within the new Republican Party, the Trump Party, that is not the traditional your grandfather's Republican Party. But what sort of worries me is, and I say I've never been there, so I don't know whether cultural issues or political correctness or the social issues, those things never come up when you're on site, when you're sort of enjoying yourself at Disney World.
No,
right? You're not aware of these kinds of issues, are you?
You don't hear people talk about it either. I mean, people who go there are of every stripe, politically and otherwise. And you still don't hear people talk about that. Everybody's having a good time regardless of whether they're talking to somebody who's gay or not. They don't even think about it. So I don't understand the whole thing, except for he's upset about this, and
it's all political. It's
for his voting base.
I'm not a political expert the way you guys are, but just following it, the "Don't Say Gay" bill was him writing a law for a problem they didn't actually have, just to cause the. And then from that, the CEO at that time didn't handle it very well.
Yes.
And then he was able to really make Disney a bad guy that he can now grandstand again. And it just feels like it's all just set up for him to run for president. And the problems that are going to come from this, if there are problems, which I think there will be, are going to happen well after he's gone.
Right.
And so he's already benefited from it. He's gone. The people that live there are going to be dealing with this.
Yeah, they are.
And it's interesting because here's how Forbes describes what has long been the Reedy Creek Improvement District that sort of governed it. It says Walt Disney World is governed by the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which functions like a county government and takes care of things like roads, construction permits, fire services, building codes, water, and waste collection, among other infrastructure concerns. Let me suggest, not having been there, I don't know of any county government that's as efficiently run as Disney World. Do you?
No.
Because we've all lived in cities and we've all lived in counties, and we know the hurdles that you have to overcome in order to at least live a peaceful life in these communities.
I mean, the bottom line is, if people didn't think that park, that entertainment site, because it's basically 4 parks, wasn't run well, they would not be getting the kind of patronage that they get. It's packed every day. You can if you don't get a reservation now to go into the parks, it doesn't matter if you have a ticket. You can't go. You can have a ticket, but if there's no reservation, you don't go. And the parks are full every day. If people thought that it wasn't run well, they wouldn't be going there and spending their money.
It keeps getting more expensive. It's like when we were there last week. It keeps getting more expensive. People keep complaining about all the we're talking about the reservations, all that stuff. Everybody complains, but when I was there, I told my wife, we were there for a few minutes, and I turned around, I was like, I don't hear anybody complain about Disney and how expensive, because they are more packed now than they were before the pandemic. Yeah. There used to be spots that when you go a lot, this place is usually pretty quiet or whatever. There's no place like that anymore. It's feels much busier now than it ever did.
And by and large, the crowds all get along well.
I would say that in the past, I hardly ever had a problem with a Disney employee, but sometimes you do have problems with people. Sometimes the people can be very rude to the employees. They deal with a lot.
And that's you set up if you're paying out hundreds of dollars. you have an expectation that you have a right to complain, even if there's nothing to complain about, just because you're spending all that money. I mean, it's human nature, I guess. But overall, I mean, you don't find the kinds of issues that confront cities or counties or anything like that. Do you?
I got video of it when I was there. We talked about it before I
Right.
went, that when you're driving into Disney World, you're on I-4. It's one of the most dangerous, I think it may be the most dangerous strips of interstate in the country. It's packed no matter almost all day. It's packed bumper to bumper. It's government run.
Okay.
You keep going on it, you're going to hit a toll road. When you turn off to go to Disney, it opens up. Yeah. There's no traffic. Everything, they will always have an extra lane. So because it's in their best interest to get people in and out. But it's just amazing to me that you're on this terrible interstate. You turn off, and as soon as you get on Disney property, everything's fine. And you're on Disney property because the signage is different. Like this, the government signs
pristine.
Are green, but they're like yours is purple.
It's beautifully landscaped. It's always pristine. You never see
that's
trash on
what
the
I was going to ask
roadsides.
about.
Yeah.
When you have these kinds of crowds that y'all are talking about, you still say it's pristine. It's well.
I don't know how. I didn't notice them, but I mean, there are people sweeping up stuff after a parade. There's a cadre of people in the streets sweeping up whatever anybody put down. It's every minute of every day they're doing that. You never see trash lying around.
You would think that the person who's picking up trash and sweeping things would be a low tier job.
Right.
But when I applied for them, they'll tell you that's actually one of their more important jobs, because you are an ambassador. So you are the person that you see somebody looks like they're lost, and you're just sweeping up, trash. Where you're supposed to be the person that goes over. You're supposed to have the most personality. You are an ambassador of the park. There's a guy. There's a couple of guys now, but they'll take a mop and they can draw.
I was just gonna mention that.
I have video of a guy doing it right there in Adventureland. Yeah. Like I think it was the last time I went or the time before, but that's how important it is. They do it
on the cement, so they draw Disney characters with their mop and the water on the cement.
Can you imagine local government having that kind of attitude?
It's going to be a disaster. It's going to be an absolute disaster if this actually goes through. If they don't get this changed, I'm just waiting to see how long this lasts, because that's what I wanted to ask you about. Bertram and I were talking the other day, and he rescinded part of what he was going to do.
Right, about the debt.
The debt. So the only thing he's retaining now is the board and assigning the board. I'm wondering, this happened after Iger came back, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering how big of a hand Iger had in it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that down the line, that board is either going to be non-functioning, or Iger is going to have a hand in saying who's on the board. I can't imagine that this is going to last.
I was telling Bertram, I think Iger's so smart, and he knows when to put his ego aside.
Yeah.
That he realizes this guy needs an ego win, let him have it.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they actually took as much away from Disney as he's grandstanding and acting like he is. I think Iger played it just right. Because I'm no expert, but I have heard experts say that this could be contested. They're not. It doesn't like Disney wants to contest it in court.
He's been very quiet.
There's a lot of people, a lot of the Disney nerds, on the pages I follow, everybody's like, keep it quiet. But I think that Iger pulled a fast one where he will let him look like he won.
Yeah.
And still retain some of the power, because it's I'm hoping it doesn't affect their ability to do business. And it looks like it maybe he didn't get as much as he was boasting about. Talking about DeSantis.
Right.
Yeah. It almost seems that the Disney success has been based on the quality of the people who work at Disney World.
Yep.
The attitudes of the people, the way they present themselves. That is not a definition of government.
No.
Because the best and the brightest don't end up with government. It's who you know, how you know, it's political connections, it's all of those things.
And it's so slow. Everything
exactly.
happens so slowly in
when
government.
So when you're talking about hiring, and you talked about the interview process that you went through, how does this commission that appointed by the governor go about goes about hiring people who work for the district. How would that work?
We mentioned the couple of experiences we had, and because it's so rare. You compare
Right,
that experience to
right.
the DMV or something like that, I'm just going to expect that whoever I'm going to meet is going to be rude to me.
Exactly.
At Disney, I'm appalled because of
Yeah.
the hundreds of employees you may, Nicole, I'll give a shout out. She works on Rise of the Resistance. My son got very scared halfway through that, and she was really cool. And she brought us backstage to get out of there. And she's like, she's like, I'm with the First Order, and she stayed in character and kept him from because he doesn't like loud noises.
Yeah.
And she was just so great. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, that's the other thing that
Anything
you
but
would
Disney.
know.
Not to be personal with you and your family, but since we're talking about your son, he has some problems. Some I don't know how you define
He does.
it.
He doesn't. Yeah. Well, I have one son who has hemophilia. My oldest son, he doesn't like loud noises, and it can.
And there was no reluctance on your wife's part to take them to Disney World?
No, not just because we kind of know what we're getting into. So, Rise of the Resistance, we did a writer swap, and he went through it with my wife. And then when they came through, they were like, "Well, now you can write it." And I'm a big Disney, Star Wars nerd, and they were like, "Your son could come too." So he was actually going through it the second time, and didn't realize that there's a spot in the middle where you're on a spaceship and it gets kind of loud, and you're on this big space. I don't want to give anything away for anybody, but. I guess it scared him the first time, and he was not having it the second time. So it was kind of caught me off guard, But just how great, on average, they are with stuff like that. It's just if that were a government agency, that would have been a nuisance to someone. I'm sure. That would have been, well, here, come this way. But she made it, and he was so happy, and she gave him a sticker. They have stickers they hand out to the kids and stuff, and they give buttons that they will give you. But
when you were hired, did they have a training program?
Yeah, it was 2 days before we even got in the park. Before we even got our uniform, we had 2 days, and it was walking us through every possible scenario. So you encounter this person, and they're doing this, and they're being rude. How do you handle it? So it was a major focus on that. It's and then try to make you see things from the guest's perspective. So this is their once in a lifetime vacation, their kids, and nothing's working out. They missed the bus. They give you this scenario, and now they're being rude to you. You could either, give that back to them, or you can give them the Disney treatment, and maybe turn everything around for them, and then they will remember for the rest of their lives how important it was, that one encounter they had with you. And it makes you feel like, and usually it's Disney fans that are working there, it makes you feel like, well, that's pretty important. Like I said, with the custodian, with the folks that you see sweeping, their job is considered very important, because that's one of their functions, is to help people.
They
and
come
to
across
not
a lot more than a lot of the other
Yeah.
workers do. Yeah.
and
That's, to me, the key here, is I cannot imagine a government entity having that kind of view of the public. The person is always right.
No. Well, and I mean,
and I think
Disney's devotion to service is known internationally. Companies all over the world send their employees to Disney training conferences so that they can learn the Disney way. I've never been any place where they can match the service that you get at Disney. But
that was a retreat even for like Nintendo when they were developing Mario 3.
yeah,
They all went to Disney World.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that's where they credit some of the ideas of how that game is laid out. They may have gotten those ideas from Disney. So you're right. It's everybody always studies Disney. How do they pull that off? It's it's not the other way around. Disney's not learning from anybody else. Everybody's learning from them. Universal, all of them are following Disney.
yeah, right, exactly.
So now that since this is a done deal, and we're coming to the end,
I don't think it is.
What message, if you had a chance to sit down with Governor DeSantis, he originally is from this area.
Yes. So he points out all the time
Yeah,
when he
does.
comes
Yeah,
into the area.
He understands the Rust Belt.
Yeah, right.
Even though he wasn't born, he was
Yeah.
born in Florida, but his ancestors were from here. But if you had a chance to sit down with him and talk to him about what he has done here, a purely political move, designed to ingratiate himself with the far right wing of the Republican Party. What would you say to him as far as Disney World goes, and the sort of the way he should, what he should and should not do? You can go first, Billy, and then Cynthia.
I would ask him if he's ever been there. I feel like I'm in La La Land. I still feel it's so crazy to me that this is a Republican. Republicans have traditionally stood on government just gets in the way. It's a Republican that's throwing government into one of the examples of how business can work without government involvement. It's selfish. I just ask him, if he cares about the. I'm concerned, and it's first world problems because I love going to Disney World and I want it to stay fun, but I'm also worried about the people who live there. Does he care about those people? I don't think he does, because I don't know, and I don't think anybody really knows. How is this going to affect the people who live in that area?
Right.
And I think they have a right to be concerned about it. And I think that all he cares about is being president right now, and that's scary. Anybody like that, that to me is scary.
Well, it definitely is, and I mean,
What would you tell him?
I would tell him to get his hands out of the Disney cookie jar. He has no business being in there. That district has run itself so well. The only way he can go is down. And it may not happen in the first year, but eventually what's going to happen is if government starts controlling that, everything is going to go downhill. Quality of the parks is going to go downhill. And then all of these Ohioans who go down there for however many months, or even just for a week-long vacation at Disney World, are going to stop going there because they won't feel that they're getting their money's worth.
And none of that would be there.
Right.
That's what we talk about. None of that would be there if it wasn't for Disney. Universal wouldn't be there. Orlando would not be the city the size that it is. They wouldn't have an international airport there. They have
the
none of that.
airport is massive down there.
Yeah. They would have none of that.
It's like an entertainment complex at the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They what?
It's like an entertainment complex at the airport. There's a hotel right in the middle of the courtyard.
Yeah.
Hotel with flowers hanging over the balconies.
Right over security.
Me
Me and my wife were joking this, like, next time we have to stay here, so we don't have to stress out to get to the airport because we'll be there.
Yeah.
So it's like your balcony, you're looking at everybody
How
getting.
do you get from the airport to Disney World?
It used to be a bus system, but now you can. We just rented a car and drove in there.
Either rent a car or you hire
Uber or
a
something
service,
like that.
to take you, a shuttle. But Disney used to have the Magic Express, which was a bus that was free to anyone who was staying on the Disney property. And the other thing they did was they transferred your luggage to your hotel, so your luggage would be there by the time you got there.
Wow.
And they've stopped that. During COVID, they stopped a lot of this. So I'm hoping with Iger back in charge that some of that stuff will come back. But
that made business sense. The reason why they started doing that wasn't to be nice. It was because they knew that if they could get you from the airport to their property without a car,
right,
you're staying on property. You're
and
probably
you
not going
didn't
to
have
leave.
to deal with your luggage.
You didn't have to deal with your luggage.
And you've got kids. You're lugging kids. Usually toddlers. These young kids behind you. So they were making it as easy as possible for parents.
Yeah, with 2 kids, we had to rent a car. You can rent the car seats, but they won't put them in for you for legal reasons. So the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes I was in Orlando, I'm putting 2 car seats in, to the car we rented. So it's
a lot of extra work.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see. I think we'll be able to tell a lot by the first action taken by this commission, this new commission, this governing commission, the governing board. It will tell you the direction they're going to move in. It'll tell you what's going to happen. And also, so far, the Disney execs have been pretty quiet about responding to this. They've sort of been very diplomatic.
Publicly.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're working behind the scenes.
But I'm wondering at what point
so.
they're going to publicly come out and just, with guns blazing.
I don't know if they will.
I think right now there's a group of people that no matter what Disney does, so even if they took this to court and won, there are a group of people who would still paint them as the villains in
Right,
that situation.
right.
So I think they are smart enough to realize right now we can't win, no matter, even if we are in the right, we can't win. So publicly, yeah.
So from what I understand, this all of these changes are going to take place June the 1st. So I don't know when you're planning your next trip to Disney World. But, if you,
I don't know. My brother informed me this morning we're going to Steamboat next year to ski, so I'm not sure if Disney's in the cards next year.
So, the next time you go there, it'll be under a new governance.
Did you say June 1st?
That's what they
I'll be in Orlando June 2nd. Did you say June 1st?
Yeah.
Oh, I zoned out for a minute thinking about Disney.
You'll be down there June 2nd?
Yeah, but I'm going to Universal. I may go to Disney because I have a pass at Disney at Universal, but because they stopped renewing the passes at Disney World, I don't have one there. So it's like, I don't know if I would like to pop over to Hollywood Studios. That's my favorite part. Is that
Hollywood Studios? Isn't it? That's mine.
But since you're going to be down there, perhaps we're going to be sending this this podcast to the governor's office, and we're also going to be sending Disney. So they might reach out to you and say, we heard your criticism. Come meet with us.
Right. Yeah.
A former employee. Yeah, but he's got all good things to say about Disney.
No, I'm talking about the governor's office.
Oh, the governor's office.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he'd love to talk to me.
Oh, yeah.
Well, guys, listen, I can tell that I don't share your sort of deep sense of commitment to Disney World, but
Are you going to wear the ears?
But I do think that
he'll give you these if you go.
That's quite all right. But I do say, to me, having covered government for so long, I cannot see how government can operate this kind of community in the fashion it has operated in the past, because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work that way. Government does not operate on this kind of a level. No. And I think to me, that's the major concern.
Yeah.
How long do you think it will take before it's evident what a disaster this was?
Once they start the hiring process and you find incompetence being hired,
that's going to be interesting.
And the culture changing, and the kind of things that you were talking about, where they go through the scenarios where they say, okay, what if, the idea that the customer is always right, the idea that people who come for an experience deserve, your special attention, even though you're frustrated and though you might have problems at home, don't bring it to work. None of those things apply or work in government, and therein lies the problem. And so... And
the hiring is going to be interesting because there's five board members, right? So who's going to be responsible for the hiring?
Exactly.
Are they going to leave all of their department heads in to do the hiring, and then they have to pass it through the board who know none of these people? And on top of that, there's tons of retirees that work down there. There's even a community of retirees that go down and spend the summer or the winter, and they have their own RV park.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can't fathom how they think this is going to work just with the hiring alone. And then you talk about having to get all of the product in there and, restaurant product and all that. It's mind-boggling.
I keep thinking, what if there's there's a sinkhole, in the middle of the road?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Under the reedy, it's like, they can just jump on it immediately. But now they have to go through government.
Yep.
It's going to take how long?
Yes.
And while that's happening, that's going to affect all of because now we're going to divert people back on I-4, go down this other way. There's other ways into the park besides the main road in. Little things like that. People aren't thinking about. And that will affect not just Disney. That's going to affect the area.
And the other thing too is they also have the right to hire private contractors. Mm-hmm. Now, how that operates when you talk about government and hiring, especially private contractors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Disney obviously has a whole list of people that they know will do the kind of work they require them to do, with the kinds of standards they require, and the efficiency they require, and the time it takes, and all of those kinds of things. And they can do that because they're a private company.
Mm.
You can't do that as government.
Well, and there's something else. When they change these different rides and offerings that they have. So they put berries up so you can't see it, so it's all secret. But the one that they're changing, Splash Mountain, they're changing it because some of it was offensive to the black community. So they changed it. Well, now you've got DeSantis in the far right handling this. So what are they going to do? Reinstall Splash Mountain?
They've had some things to say about that too. And it's like, but that's their choice as a business.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's based after, the ride was based after a movie that was so offensive that they won't even air it anymore. It's permanently in the vault. They won't.
Yeah.
And for some reason they based the characters after it back in the 80s. So it's like, so they're changing it now. But yeah, he has had some things to say about that. And there was I don't know what he said, but there was some speculation that he may try to block that. They're the first park to actually start changing it, and some people think that might be the reason why. They haven't started in Disneyland yet, or in Paris and other. There's a couple of Shanghai, but the first one was Florida, and may very well be because they're like, let's go ahead and get this thing going before this crazy person takes over. We have to. So let's see how far we can get before.
Please be sure and send that to the governor's office.
Yes, we will. Well, listen. This is going to be an ongoing conversation, and obviously because of your long investment in Disney World.
This is just a piece of it from both of us. I'm sure it's like, this is nothing compared to what I have at my house. I have paintings. I mean, it's kind of pathetic.
I hate to say this, but they see you guys coming and they know.
But you know what? I don't regret spending anything that I bought down there. It's so fun to go to those parks. I mean, with or without kids. For me, I like it actually better with adults.
Mm-hmm. As a person who's now recently gone with kids, I used to, as an adult, think, oh, it'd be kind of cool to go with a kid. Now that I have kids, I'm like, I miss the times that it was just me, So when I worked there, when I was,
mean that he loves his kids.
I love my kids, but it adds more challenge. And when I go in June, it is going to be just me. My wife's sending me down for my birthday. So.
Oh, how nice!
So that'll
be a good trip.
It'd be interesting to hear your observations and reactions. So
I wonder if anything will be implemented that soon.
Let's hope this generates some chatter, and because this really is an important issue about the role of government and
their ability to take over a business.
Right.
I mean, that's in itself is just something unheard of.
Okay, we'll talk again soon.